Hi guys, it's Miss McCaslin again. Today we're going to watch a flip video on plant adaptations. Our goal is to answer the question, how do plants survive? We're going to get started by watching a Study Jams video. This is just an overall plant adaptation summary, but I know how much we all love Study Jams. So hopefully they'll be able to explain a little bit to you about the overall consensus of plant adaptations.
Mia, aloha. What's new in Hawaii?
Hawaii is amazing. There's so much to do. We went snorkeling today, and you should see all the different plants and flowers. Look,
Oh, that would make a great painting.
I'm sending you tons of pics, Sam. I swear, plants can grow anywhere here. The beach, the rainforest, the mountains, even underwater. I don't know how they do it.
You'd be surprised how well plants can adapt to different environments so that they can survive.
Plants know how to adapt? What do you mean?
Well, okay. When you went snorkeling, you had to put a mask on and breathe through a tube, right?
Yeah? How else would I be able to breathe underwater?
Right. When you put on the snorkeling equipment, you were adapting so you could survive underwater. The mask and breathing tube were adaptations. Plants adapt kind of like we do. An adaptation is a change a living thing makes in order to fit into its environment. For us, it's easy. We can adapt in a snap, just like you did when you went snorkeling. But it takes a little longer in nature. Plants learn to adapt over time.
Well, the plants I've seen must have done some serious adapting. Look at the ones I saw underwater.
Underwater plants like those adapted their leaves and stems to be flexible, so they can bend and flow with the water.
And look, this coconut was floating. Isn't that cool?
The coconut is actually a seed. By floating, the seeds, or coconuts, can move around instead of just sinking down to the ocean floor.
And this water lily was floating all by itself. How does that work?
Water lilies and other plants that float have air spaces in their stems. This adaptation helps them stay afloat.
That plant floats better than I do.
Looks like it. Hey, let's see the pics you took of the rainforest.
Oh, yeah. Look at these flowers. They were so bright and colorful, but they grew super close to the ground.
That's another adaptation. Bright colors and the low location attract birds and insects that help pollinate the flowers. That's important, since there's almost no wind at the rainforest floor to carry pollen away.
I never would have thought of that. What about these? They're so pretty, but the guide said they were poisonous.
Well, some plants need to protect themselves from animals or bugs that might eat them. That's probably what the poison was for.
Wow, these adaptations are so smart.
Adaptations are smart, and they're necessary for survival.
What about these? The leaves were huge and super slippery. Is that an adaptation?
It definitely is. It gets pretty dark on the rainforest floor, so those huge leaves make it easy to catch as much sunlight as they can. They're super slippery, so the extra rainwater slides right off.
Seems like plants can adapt to almost anything to survive.
Plants need water and sunlight to survive, but their adaptations certainly make it easier for them to live in tough places like the rainforest, underwater, or even in super hot or cold places like the desert or the tundra. If plants didn't adapt, they wouldn't be able to survive.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I am certainly adapting to the Hawaiian lifestyle.
So we're not going to do the test today, but if you would like to, the link to this website will be on your class website, and you can go to it and then try to test yourself. We're going to go back to our PowerPoint now. And today we're going to talk about specific types of plant adaptations. And one of those things that a plant does is it has different tropisms. Now you're probably wondering what in the world is a tropism. Tropisms, there are several different kinds, and basically they mean that when plants, we know plants are not necessarily able to move on their own. They just kind of sit in the ground and hang out. But they are able to change how they grow based on their environment. So anytime it is growing toward or away from a stimulus, that's known as a tropism. And like I said, there's several different kinds of them. Today we're going to learn about 3 different kinds of tropisms. The 3 that we're going to learn about are phototropism, gravitropism, and thigmotropism. Now, Gravitropism is sometimes also called geotropism. And you're going to watch a video today and fill in your food notes, and you'll hear that those two words are interchanged. They'll talk mainly about geotropism, but it is the same thing as gravitropism. And these are some pictures here. So from looking at these pictures, you might be able to make some predictions about which one does which thing. You can also use your context clues and break apart your words to figure out the meanings. So now it's time for you to take out your fib notes. You're going to follow along with the next video, filling in your fib notes as you watch.
When you hear a loud noise, you may respond by jumping. External stimuli result in a response. We easily see this in animals, but it also happens in plants. We generally think of plants as passive. They simply, and much of the time very slowly, grow. However, there is much more to plants than we perceive. When animals, including humans, respond to a stimulus, which is something that causes a response, we call it a reaction. For example, if someone touches your arm, you generally turn to react. In plants, the response to a stimulus is known as a tropism. This plant movement towards or away from a stimulus can come in many forms. Before we look at a few, let's better understand the word tropism. Like many words in science, tropism comes from a Greek word. Tropos means to turn. Therefore, a tropism is a turn towards or away from a stimulus. When the movement is towards the stimulus, it is called positive tropism. Likewise, when the movement is away from the stimulus, it is called negative tropism. While there are several forms of tropism, we'll just focus on three key types: phototropism, geotropism, and thigmotropism. Phototropism is generally the tropism that makes the most sense. We know that plants grow towards the sun so they can make food through photosynthesis. This movement in response to sunlight is called phototropism. Let's break this word apart. Tropos means to turn, and photo means light. Therefore, phototropism is a turn towards or away from light. While most phototropism involves plants just growing towards the sun, some plants actually follow the sun throughout the day. For example, sunflowers will orient their flowers to the sun. In the morning, they point east towards the rising sun. They then gradually follow the sun throughout the day, eventually pointing west towards the setting sun. Let's now look at geotropism. We know that tropos means to turn, so we already understand the second half of the word. Geo may sound familiar because of words such as geography and geology. Geo means earth. Therefore, geotropism is movement towards or away from the earth. You may see geotropism used interchangeably with gravitropism, which is the movement towards or away from gravity. Examples of geotropism include the downward growth of roots and the upward growth of shoots. Roots have specialized cells that sense gravity and therefore have a positive tropism by growing towards the pole of gravity. Opposite of this is the growth of the shoot, which is the above ground portion of the plant. The shoot exhibits negative geotropism by growing away from the earth. You can see these growth patterns with lateral roots and branches. Lateral roots will curve down, while lateral branches will curve up. The last type of tropism we will look at is thigmotropism. Thigma means touch, and again, tropos means to turn. Therefore, thigmotropism is movement towards or away from touch. Plants can be affected by touch both positively and negatively. For example, if you repeatedly touch a young growing plant, this can actually cause the plant to grow less. This is useful for plants growing close together so that they don't outgrow the limited space. We can also see a response to touch in vines and other climbing plants. Vines will grow straight along the ground until they touch something to grow on, such as a tree or a wall. This positive thigmotropism allows vines to find a support on which to grow. Another example of positive tropism can be seen in the Venus flytrap. These plants will close leaves around unsuspecting insects, which are then digested for nutrients. An example of negative thigmotropism is seen in a plant found in Central and South America. The touch me not immediately folds its leaves after being touched. It is moving away from the stimulus of touch. Regardless of the perception that plants are not the most interesting and animated things out there, they actually have several unique ways to respond to their environments. Geotropism allows plants to correctly orient themselves for growth. The roots exhibit positive geotropism and grow towards the earth. The shoot shows negative geotropism by growing away from the earth. Phototropism occurs when plants move towards or away from sunlight. Lastly, we looked at thigmotropism. This response to touch can be positive, like when vines grow around a tree or a wall that they touch. However, it can also be negative, like the folding of leaves seen in the touch me not. All of these responses to stimuli allow plants to thrive in their environments.
So coming back to our PowerPoint now, you've now learned about the 3 different types of tropisms. I have a couple of time-lapse videos to show you. One will show you phototropism in action, and the other is gravitropism. So we're going to start by looking at the phototropism. And you can, as I push play, I want you to watch how these plants start leaning in toward that light bulb. Again, this is time-lapse, so this is happening slowly, but they've sped up the filming so that you can see those plants over time are leaning towards the light, showing phototropism. Now, if they remove the light from the middle and they open up light to the whole plant, which is going to happen in just a second, now you will see that the plants will gradually recede, and now they are growing towards the light in the room rather than just the light of the light bulb. So that is phototropism. Now let's look at gravitropism. This plant has been turned on its side, but you notice that the plants, the shoots, the stems want to grow upward. That's gravitropism. Growing, they want to grow up and the roots will grow down. We'll show that one more time. Turn the plant on its side, and over time, the stems will bend and the plants will continue to grow upward. Now, hopefully you've filled in all of your notes. Of course, as always, if you have not, you can rewatch any part of this video. It will be posted on the website. The last thing that you're going to do today is to answer some conclusion questions. There are 3 questions that you'll need to answer in your notebooks or wherever your teacher has decided to have you answer these. The first question is, what is the difference between the 3 types of tropisms that you learned today? Second, how is phototropism beneficial to a plant? And number 3, explain how tropisms can help a plant survive. So you can pause the video and leave the screen up at this point so that you can see those 3 questions. You should copy down the questions and then answer each of them in complete sentences. Use your notes to help you, and you can always go back and rewatch any part of the video.